All right. Well, I have an old friend on the phone. Not an old friend per se, but a friend. We've been friends for quite a while. Um, and he goes by the name of Big Easy. Wonderful man, gentleman, excellent person to have in my life. He is definitely an inspiration of hard work, dedication. You know, Big Easy came up where he had to do it for himself. He had to survive, make decisions that made him what he is today. And I would say he did a very good job doing that. Mr. Easy, how about you introducing yourself to the folks?
Hey, good morning, Mr. Wright. Like you said, my name is Big Easy. I'm originally from Wilmington, North Carolina. At the present time, I reside in Beaufort, Georgia. I'm a business owner and a retired soldier.
Let's talk about your life a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Now, hopefully, you got a good memory. Because one of the first things I want to do is, do you remember anything about before you started elementary school, that pre-time back there?
Yes, I do. I have kind of like an interesting past. By being born in the South, I was born in 65. So that had me during the civil rights movement. My grandfather, he was actually one of the organizers for the civil rights movement in my hometown. He was one of the informer type leaders because, back during that time, most of the civil rights leaders was pretty much the church leadership. If you had a role in the church leadership, you had a role in the civil rights movement.
Okay.
And so I can remember, I have a very vivid memory of the time at 4 or 5 years old, going on civil rights marches, and going to civil rights rallies because I was my grandfather's favorite grandson because I was the youngest. And everywhere he went, I went. So
Okay.
yes, I remember pre-elementary.
Were you carrying any signs back then and had your fist in the air?
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't carry any signs back then.
Okay.
My grandfather he was a different type of civil rights mover that what you see on TV. He was one of those very self highly educated, never went to college, but he was very educated. He had a library. He was a construction worker, so he on his own construction company. So he actually had a library built in his living room.
Oh, okay. That's good
And
stuff.
so at an early age, I was taught that if you want anything, it's right here in a book
Okay.
and you can read it and learn it. So at
And
an early age, I learned that
okay.
college is great, but self education is much better.
And you're 100% correct. Self education, and that'll definitely be another topic later on. Or let's do this right here. Okay, you talked about the civil rights movement, and you had some memories in that before you even started elementary school. And let's talk about that self education portion. What do you think about? We have the access today with cell phones in our hands to access probably enough information to become a doctor if we chose to. Now we might not be certified, but we would know enough to be able to kind of do preventive medicine in our own lives and kind of recommend things to those in our bubble. So what do you think about taking advantage, and are we taking advantage of all the knowledge we have at our fingertips to self-educate?
Well, I think coming out of this pandemic, a lot of people is gonna realize that anything I need is just like you said, is right at the tip of my finger. If I want to know how to go out here and change the brakes on my car, I have two options. I can call someone and go pay them two, three, $400 to change my brakes, or I can go down to my local parts store, spend $29, $30 on some brake pads, get on YouTube and look at YouTube and look at very self self-taught type videos to show me how to change my brake pads. And an hour later, I have new brakes on my car and only spent $29. You know,
Yeah, that's 100% correct. That kind of goes into the segment of a segment I did in the past talked about what are you going to do when you get old. And I think that's one of the things, kind of what you did. You set the example. You remember when I talked about the burger, the bag full of
Yeah.
food? You
Yes.
just set the example. Hey, instead of just not going through the motion of teaching yourself to do it, just automatically pay someone because you have the means to do it. That $300 can turn into a lot of money in 20 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, as we've seen, right?
Yes, Mr. Wright. And then
Yes.
let's look at another thing. As a business owner, and even as a employee of someone else, we spend millions of dollars during this time, since this is tax season. We spend millions of dollars paying someone to do our taxes. And don't you know that IRS have step by step on any type of forms? All the forms are online. All the forms come with instructions on how to fill out the forms. And then if you have a question on a deduction, it's places on the internet you can research and self-teach yourself how to do your own taxes. And as a businessman, to get my taxes done could cost me in between minimum of $1,000 on up to probably about $3,500. And I haven't had anyone to do my taxes in the last 5 years. And I haven't been out of that. So that's one of those things where it goes back to, like you saying, what you're going to do when you get old. Let's just say at the low end, $1,000 over 5 years, that's $5,000 that I can invest into my future of when I get old because of something I chose to self-teach.
100% correct. I am big on micro purchases. And what I mean by that is a micro purchase is, from my point of view, and I think it's kind of proven as well. Hey, I need a pack of bubble gum. Hey, I need a pack of chips. Hey, I need to put, $2 worth of gas in. I need to go over to one of the little stores and buy a knife. I need to go to another store and buy this. So these purchases, these micro purchases might be $5 here, $2 here, $4 there, but over a month's time, you spent $500 on micro purchases, and you can't really go back and say I bought this, that, and that, and that. You just bought little things. And one thing that I've learned is if I cut down on the micro purchases, I have more money every month. I really look at those expenditures as being an important thing that we can control ourselves and have more money at the end of the month or the end of the year. And another thing I say about that is going to a restaurant is a thing that I have to want to do because I just don't do it because it's convenient. It has to be a planned event, and not the big event like people may imagine. It's like, hey, today I want to get a pizza. I go get it. Now, that's not going to be an option for me every day to stop and get a pizza or stop and get a burger or stop and get something en route to somewhere, because I see those as micro purchases. And as we know, with those micro purchases, it's not like, we remember back in the day when getting a burger, fries, and a soda was $2. Now a burger, fries, and soda is really, really close to 10, and it pushes over that if you get a few things added. And that's a lot of money for a micro purchase. So that's what I call micro purchases, a drive-through.
So you look at yourself as one person going back in society. Society has changed us to talking about this for years, that the family dinner has gone away. The family sit down meals has gone away. But you go back to your micro purchases. You take a family with 3 kids. The wife, the husband, both is working. And so they say, okay, what we're going to do, just grab something on the way home. Even if that parent stopped on the way home to feed a family of 5 at McDonald's. Let's go to just McDonald's. Happy Meal is going to run you $7, bro, just for a Happy Meal. So that's $21 just for the kids. And so then, like you said, for the parents, $10 each. So they're walking out at $50. So when you look at micro purchases, now you're talking about for a family of 5, at the end of the week, they done spent $250 just on one meal for that week. Now you going into the weekend. Now when you look at the weekend, you're gonna want to do something like pizza on Friday night. Order a pizza for a family of 5, delivered. It's gonna run you $25, $30. And now you're not even talking about the daytime meals, and you're not talking about the meals at lunch while you're working. So that micro is deep, because think about it. If you just found a way and do meal preps as a family, as a husband and wife, I don't feel like a woman is the only person supposed to cook, even as a husband. And it's a relationship building type task. On Sunday, you get together, and once again, we're doing this self-teach thing, and we starting as a family. So you bring your kids in there. You say, okay, we're going to do meal prep for the week. Ideas for what we want for this week. And you can cook enough and put it in the refrigerator and put it in containers. And if you meal prep for 5 days, and also not only just your dinner meals, but as the adults, they lunch meals, think about how much you save, and then think about the family building you're doing when everybody's sitting around the kitchen on Sunday afternoon doing meal preps for the week. And then you say, okay, now we're going to splurge on Friday, but everything we save, we're going to put up, and we're going to take half of that at the end of the year, and we're going to take a family vacation.
Yeah.
So you do the math on that. If you just put up low end $125 a week at 52 weeks, quick math, you're talking about over $6,000 at the end of the year. That's a nice vacation.
Yeah, you're correct. And on that, it is a family building dynamic in that. And also a lot of individuals, a lot of single folks, or a lot of folks that don't have families, or folks that are busy and their days are 16-hour work days or 20-hour work days if they got their own business, or some folks do. I remember back in the military, 16, 18-hour days were the standard. That was the standard once you got so far up the chain. And
Yes.
now that's the time thing. And a lot of us are not willing to give that time up consistently to do that meal prep. Because I'm not saying it's a choice, but it's just because the schedules are so dynamic in our households today, or that it sometimes it's kind of hard to take that pause and do it. So we do the convenient thing. Now,
Well, Mr. Wright, since you brought up the military, let's talk about your days when you was in the military. Did you wait till Monday morning to get up and shine your boots?
no.
Or back in the day, you was a squared away soldier. So what you did, you probably had 2 pair of boots in the ready. And on Sunday night, that's what you did. You prep your uniforms for the entire week, not just for going into Monday. A squared away soldier, do uniform prep. Have at least 2 pairs of boots, spit shining at the ready. So when you stepped out there on Monday morning, you used to catch me out. And so you can take those same
That's
tools.
cool to catch me out. I hadn't heard that before.
You can take those same tools and put it into micro spending.
Yeah.
You can take those same tools and put it into business building. I think what happens is the reason why we're going away from self-teaching, because it's more convenient just to ask somebody to do it for you. If you teach yourself how to do certain things, and then you set up a plan, and then let's use a sports metaphor, you pregame and use Sundays not only as a relaxing time, but as a prep day. You wake up Sunday morning, if you choose religion, you go to church, and if you're the type to work out, Sunday is usually your off day from working out. And it's, pretty much visitation of family members and friends, and recovering from Saturday if you're the party type. And so now Sunday afternoons, think about that dead time Sunday afternoons, probably from like 3 to 7, those 4 hours. If you say to yourself, this is going to be my new prep time, every Sunday, no matter what's going on in my world, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say these 4 hours is going to prep me for the next 5 days, and see where you end up.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Now the consideration to that is, if we use the Army example, only less than 2% of the population in the U.S. Volunteer to be soldiers, sailors, or Marines, right?
Yes.
So as we as we have this conversation, we have to think that 98% of the population didn't go through basic.
Yes.
So now, if we're going to if people just kind of realize that, what am I going to do when I get old? How much am I micro purchasing? What is it going to take within our ecosystem, our bubble, to stop and pause for a minute and do what Big Easy is talking about? What do we have to do? What do we have to sit back and wait? Hold up. Just get a kind of look at our lives, activities, our daily activities, and say, hey, how can I redirect my energy to be more productive for me, not only for now, but for future? I can look back and say, hey, I saved an additional $75,000 over the past 20 years by just taking that time to prep on Sundays or Wednesdays or whatever days my schedules allow. And I think that what you're talking about, how to do it and how we did it, perfect. That's a perfect analogy. I would charge everyone listening to this podcast just to think about that in your micro purchases, and think about what it takes for you to be better. Not only just finances, but to be better overall. And some of it is self-education. Big Easy was talking about self-education that he learned during preschool years. And that's something that he's taken with him throughout his life, which is amazing and it's wonderful.
But I wasn't afraid to step out there, one, and fail, because that's the thing about self-education. You can't be afraid to fail, because when you doing self-education versus going to a college or a technical school, that's what tests are for. Tests are to gauge your level of success. When you self-educate, your level of success is gauged on your failures. So how many times did Alexander Graham Bell fail on making a phone before he came up with the right answer? Because he had to teach himself, because it wasn't any examples before him.
Correct.
So when you self-educate, the number one key success in self-education is you can't be afraid of failure. Because every time you fail, you look at where you failed. The best example of that is the movie Groundhog Day, where he wanted the woman. So what he did, he tried several different options, because he knew the next day he was going to wake up and start over again. So let me try something different each day. But life is not Groundhog Day. So you can't be afraid of that failure. You're just going to have to take that failure, put it in your book of failures, and say, okay, we know if I go left, this is what's going to happen. So tomorrow we'll go right. So tomorrow you get up and you try it again, you go right. If that failed, then you say, okay, the next time I'm going to have to go straight, or I'm going to have to go backwards, or whatever. But that's how self-education is gauged, versus if you go to a university or if you go to a technical school, they sit you down, they teach you, you connect the green wire in order to make this happen, the red wire make that happen. And then a week later, they're going to grade you on your retainability of that knowledge. Self-education, out here driving a truck, at a certain RPMs, it's going to slide into gear. Once you straight those gears enough, you're gonna understand that, okay, if I don't want to straight the gears, I'm gonna have to get there. So that's how self-education is such a great tool. But if you fear failure, you probably need to stick to formal education.
Yeah, and you know, I totally agree with you. And one thing as we talk about self education and being afraid to fail, it's a thing to where I think a person has to tap into determination, commitment, and this determination, commitment is not to anybody around them; it's to themselves. To be determined to succeed, and kind of like the gears you were talking about, they're going to get scraped up. They're going to get scraped up, and but each time that you get to that point, it gets a little easier to get to the next gear. So by not being afraid to fail means you really don't care what people around you think about you or the path that you're taking. It's one of those self-determination things to fail 100 times. Why? Because you have a goal. Fail 100 times. Why? Because you're determined to succeed and get to that next level. So looking fear in the face and not being afraid of it while you're trying to accomplish your goals should be one of what we call the beacons that you focus on to achieve. Look fear in the face and say, hey, fear, you got me today, but I'm coming back tomorrow. You got me tomorrow. You got me the next day, and I'm coming back the next day. So I totally agree with that. And it's amazing how this conversation transitioned from preschool, right? The marching in the 60s.
Yes.
So as we get ready to transition to his elementary school years, what Big E is going to do, we're going to take a break today, and then we'll transition to, we're going to take a break today, and then part two, we'll transition to elementary school. So I want everybody to have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon. And Big Easy is looking forward to giving you part two on the next transition of his life from preschool, running around, marching with signs over his head, for empowerment. It's an excellent thing for a toddler. So we'll transition to elementary school.